She's got vital statistics that put the latest Barbie doll to shame. Her new blockbuster has sold 3 million copies. She currently adorns billboards and magazines across the world with her latest release this weekend. And she's British. She's also available for a computer date. In fact, that's the only way you'll ever meet her, because her name is Lara Croft, and she is, to put it baldly, a computer graphic. Lara Croft is literally an international icon, the virtual heroine of the computer game Tomb Raider, and she's made her British creators an awful lot of money. The computer games industry is a multi-billion-pound business, and the good news is that many of the world's most creative games designers are British. The bad news is that UK PLC hasn't really cashed in on its homespun talent. Rajan Datar reports.
In the beginning, there was this. Now we have this. It may look like animation, but this is Lara Croft, the high-tech heroine that you control in the computer game Tomb Raider 2. A true 1990s icon, Lara and her gravity-defying antics are likely to fill as many Christmas stockings as the Spice Girls this year. And this unassuming bunch are the creators of Lara. Their regular routine sees them unwind after a hard day's programming with a game of something more traditional. With their development company Core Design, they lead the Britsoft pack. British programmers responsible for a third of all games sold worldwide.
Nobody could have anticipated how big Tomb Raider would have been. We certainly didn't, working on the team. Basically, we came in, did a job, 9 to 5, and the extra hours to actually get the game out.
It's really good, simply because of the media coverage of Lara. It's helped make the whole world more aware of the British talent in developing computer software.
They're selling as fast as
And the secret of that success is a very British invention by Clive Sinclair, which found its way into a quarter of all our homes.
We had the benefit of the home computer revolution in the early 80s. Sinclair sorted that with the ZX81 and Sinclair Spectrum. And we all bought those computers very cheaply, and we got to know how to program.
Tomb Raider 2 had advanced sales of 2 million copies before its release this weekend, while the first game has already grossed £80 million. And Core Design's parent company, Eidos, has sped into the top 10 of games companies in the world in just 2 years. A great British success story, in fact. But before we give ourselves a gigantic slap on the back for yet more proof of our cultural renaissance, it has to be said that the Tomb Raider story is an exception rather than the norm. When it comes to the commercial exploitation of British talent, it seems our success is more virtual than real. In fact, ever since the explosion of the computer games scene in the 1980s, it's been American and Japanese companies who've plundered British talent to best effect, capturing a lion's share of what is a £5 billion global market. Someone who's grappled with our failure to invest in talent is the godfather of the current British computer gaming boom, Peter Molyneux.
For a start, I'm going to start by paying my little tribute to John to you. There we go, as agreed.
Create more living space.
His most recent game, Dungeon Keeper, has sold nearly 1 million units in its first 6 months.
Structuring what they can see.
Games playing, in its many forms, is not just entertainment for Molyneux. For him and his young team of programmers and artists, it's also about free expression.
Yes! Oh, lovely, lovely.
Really, it was, for me, it was a way of being creative. I can't paint, I can't draw, I can't write, I'm horribly dyslexic, and suddenly these computers came along and they could do things that I could actually do, and that I almost could speak the language. And so it seemed like a natural progression for me to express my creativity.
Peter Molyneux's company, Bullfrog, carved open new horizons in games design. Trouble was, no one British could back him properly. American publishers, however, made him an offer he couldn't refuse.
We thought, why are they taking interest in this tiny British company? But of course they were seeing the differences and the changes that this little tiny English company was making throughout the industry. So they were seeing so much further ahead. And I think that's, one of the good reasons why British companies don't do better because they don't look far enough ahead.
In cosy home surroundings, Molyneux has now formed a second development team called Lionhead, with some of the best young programming talent in the country. His next game won't be out for another 2 years, but when it's released, it will again be through an American publisher. And the Americans aren't just content with poaching successful British companies, they hunt for individuals too.
There has been a brain drain of games development talent from the UK for the past 10 or 15 years. There are more opportunities in the States, better climate, better salaries. I was recently on a trip to LA and visited 3 or 4 different companies, and there were a lot of English voices in the actual games development parts, but the management tends to stay American.
In trying to compete with the American industry giants, Tomb Raider's British publishers Eidos are investing heavily in its star's acrobatic talents. In this studio in London, they're using a cutting-edge technology called motion capture, which will eventually translate a gymnast's real movements into computer animation. If results are positive, they may be used to create a Tomb Raider television cartoon.
Eidos I view as a multimedia company, not just in the games industry, but go beyond. With a record label, we have a technology company, and we're able to exploit our properties beyond. I was in Hollywood a couple of weeks ago talking to 3 film studios about making a Lara Croft movie. You know, people are becoming aware, they know beyond games that these characters can exist and can be exploited.
Of course, big production values like these don't come cheap. An increasingly sophisticated market continues to demand better and more advanced games, so keeping up with foreign competition inevitably requires more homegrown investment and an appreciation of the talent that springs from our own backyard.
I think if we could try and exploit any of our creative talents, not just computer programming, anything, and try and just push it forward, then that would be interesting. It's very interesting now we've got the lottery funds going into the film industry, and the fact that that seems to be exciting a lot of interest, and we're producing a lot of good films. Whether that will be true in computer games, I'm not sure, but it certainly would give us more of a chance.
Parallels with the film industry may not be so far-fetched. For years, we lamented the inability of UK PLC to cash in on British cinematic skills. Now, with the computer games business expected to double in size to £10 billion in the next 2 years, there may still be time for Britain to claim a role as the games Hollywood of the 21st century.